Hi, I'm Nana. I figured that I should finally make a video about this, seeing as how I'm the only person to notice this. I've talked about it on Twitter and other places, but more people are likely to hear about this if I put it on YouTube in an easy-to-digest video. When it comes to the identity of the Master of Masters, it feels like people talk as if we've never had any clues. We have his personality, his mannerisms, and even a little bit of his backstory to help us figure out which character he might act like. So far it seems like people have narrowed it down to either Sora, Demix, or a completely new character. But what if I told you that we have a clue? What if I told you that it was always in plain sight? The thing is, the clue has been overlooked by everyone because only certain people would even recognize the clue. It's a very big hint. It's always been there, and it's very obvious. This tells me two things. First, that this is something that has always been planned, and second, that they wanted us to notice this. So, what am I talking about? Well, it's this. The thing you saw in the thumbnail when you clicked on this video. The clue is the Daybreak Town clock tower itself. Now, I think you can see what I mean when I said that every Kingdom Hearts fan has missed it. Unless you've already heard me talk about this, it's very unlikely that you even know why this is a clue. So, how about this? Does this screenshot look familiar? Even to people who would stand a chance of recognizing it, it's still a very obscure reference. Nonetheless, I'm surprised that no one else has recognized it. This still frame is taken from a shot that lasts less than a few seconds. It's from the office of Kali Cheval VI, the headmaster of the Magic Academy known as Academia, which serves as the main setting in the video game Final Fantasy Type 0. For those who have played Type 0, the pieces may already be falling into place. I've found that Type 0 players who see these images start to understand things very quickly. Further comparison, this is what the design looks like from the Type 0 art book. It appears as though the clock tower in Union Cross was traced directly from this image. For those who aren't aware, Type 0 was formerly known as Final Fantasy Agito 13, and it was part of the Fabula Nova Crystallis, or FNC for short. The FNC also included the mainline Final Fantasy 13 as well as Final Fantasy Versus 13. As you may already know, Verum Rex and Yozora were inspired by Versus 13 and its main character Noctis. Fans have long speculated that the man behind Kingdom Hearts in Versus 13, Tetsuya Nomura, was unhappy when the project was handed over to Hajime Tabata to direct. After it switched directors, it became known as Final Fantasy 15 and lacked many of the elements that made fans interested in Versus to begin with. Agito 13 was also directed by Hajime Tabata. This has led people to believe that Nomura had no involvement with the title, but that's simply untrue. He was involved in its development, and he's responsible for creating all the characters in the main cast. The characters belong to him. Even people who have played Type 0 might be surprised to find out that the game sounded quite different when it was first conceived as Agito 13. However, telling you about all the differences should probably be left for another time, or else I could be here for a while. The main thing you should know is that Type 0 is about a group of 14 children who go to war and struggle to become Agito, the legendary hero who is said to be able to save the world from meeting its end during a prophesied apocalyptic event known as Tempus Finis. I won't get into spoilers, however, if you intend to play the game, I will warn you that it can get dark and very, very sad. But if you've experienced the Keyblade War, then you sort of already know what to expect. So, how does this relate to the Master of Masters? Well, in order to discover this clue, I first set out with a question in my mind. If Demix is the Master of Masters, then what sort of connection does he have to Yozora? Knowing that Kingdom Hearts 4 will be about the fictional world, I wondered if there was a chance that the Master of Masters was also supposed to be a fictional character like Yozora. In other words, I thought that he could be representing another Final Fantasy character. So, I simply typed the name of Demix's Japanese voice actor into the Final Fantasy Wiki's search bar and found some results. Suzumura Kenichi has 3 notable roles in the series: Zack Fair from Final Fantasy VII, Gipple from 10-2, and Jack from Type 0. As soon as I remembered that Type 0 was formerly Agito 13, I felt like I was on the right track. Then I remembered that Type 0 is about a war, which made me even more confident. I need you to look at Jack. Just appreciate how much he looks like Demix for a moment. The fact that he also has the same voice makes the comparison feel unavoidable.
違う違う。前向きになれば前向きな未来が描けるんだよ。いい案も出やすくなるんだって。お？人間のがやっぱりいいのかな。俺はまたノーバディに戻ったけどさ、なんかうまいこと言って騙された感があるんだよな。後でどっちがいいのか聞かせてよ。
He's lazy, he loves music, and he would rather be taking a nap than going on missions. Demix existed first, so I think that Jack was inspired by him. Unlike Demix, however, Jack is unambiguously strong. He's the strongest playable character when it comes to raw physical strength. He fights with a katana, which he wields masterfully, delivering one-hit KOs when he counters. Actually, his regular attack is so strong, he can take down most enemies with only one normal attack. Jack is literally always smiling. He believes it is his duty to act cheerful so that the others won't fall into despair during the war. Underneath it all, he's actually stoic and unshaken by emotion. Throughout the series, it's implied that he may have even lost or forgotten his other emotions in order to appear happy all the time. There's definitely something intentionally unsettling about the way that he acts. At times, his smile has been referred to as nihilistic or compared to an icy abyss. It illustrates the fact that his cheerfulness only exists on the surface, and that something frightening and unknown might be lurking underneath. Still, at the end of the day, it seems like Jack genuinely has everyone's happiness at heart. Does that mean that he's a good person, though? All of the main characters in Type 0 are represented by an innate power they possess. Jack represents the power of ignorance, which means that he embodies ignorance in all of its forms. He acts ignorant, which makes his enemies ignorant of his true strength, and then he uses their ignorance against them. It also means that even the people who are closest to him don't know what he's really like. It's very hard to describe Jack one way without saying that he's also the opposite. It's like the truth of Jack's character exists in the eye of the beholder. In an interview, his voice actor described him this way. He's actually thinking about a lot of things. He may even be sad, but he never shows it. I think each person's impression of Jack will be different depending on how you perceive him. So we've got a silly guy who is an extremely ominous human mystery. That sounds familiar, right? Like I said, I think that the clock tower was meant to be obvious. I think that Nomura wanted people to think about Type 0. Even if people were like, wow, the mom reminds me of Jack, they wouldn't have had any reason to believe that Type 0 had anything to do with Kingdom Hearts. There was a long period of time where we thought that Demix would never even come back. But now that we know that he's back, and now that we know that Versus 13 is relevant, this clue suddenly seems legitimate. It's not just Demix, by the way. I'm sure you were wondering. You were sitting there thinking, but what about the rest of the Foretellers? Why are their faces hidden? Well, here's what's up. The Foretellers have renders that match the renders of certain Type 0 characters. Demix matches Jack, Ava matches Deuce, Ira matches Trey, Gula matches 8, Aced matches 9, Envy matches Queen, and Lushu, Joker is complicated, but it makes sense, so don't worry about it. They're all from the same set of renders, with the exception of Trey and 8, but if you look at what their renders look like from that set, I think it makes sense why they would have chosen different ones. Ira and Gula wouldn't have been able to hold Keyblades in those poses. Before you ask, yes, all of their personalities match too. It's like the Master of Masters and Jack. Deuce is kind yet firm in her beliefs. Trey loves to read and he's very knowledgeable, but he has trouble getting others to listen to him. 8 is always serious and stays calm so he can think rationally. 9 is the opposite. He's hot-headed and always acts before he thinks. Queen is a polite yet strict honor student who keeps an eye on the behavior of her fellow students. And Lean Joker, well, he's doing the Lushu thing. He's out there wandering through time, watching over the world, waiting for someone to become Agito and save the world from the ending that was foretold by the prophecy of the Nameless Tome. You know all this. You know these characters. That's not to say that they are the same characters, though. Like Yozora, I think that they've just been inspired by their Final Fantasy counterparts. They aren't literally the same. You probably still have questions like, how is Demix the Master of Masters? I've thought about this a lot. I've had a lot of ideas. I'm sure it could go many different ways. But I think there is one idea that makes more sense than the rest. We have to go back to that question I asked myself in the beginning. With the fictional world in mind, what is the Master of Masters' connection to Yozora? Simply put, I think the Master of Masters is fictional. There are a few ways this could have happened, but here's what I think. By hiding his identity, he let people form their own impressions of him. Eventually, each person's imagination turned him into a fully fictionalized character. At that point, he may have ceased to exist in the real world and became Demix in the fictional world. If Demix is a fictional person like Yozora, then that would explain why he looks like Jack, a Final Fantasy character. They're both characters. Obviously, this also fits with the Master's final discussions in Union Cross about the fictional world and the powers of imagination. I'm not going to say I'm right, though, and this is just my best guess for now. If you made it to the end of this video and you're thinking, but I've never heard of Andito 13, then you understand why I thought it was necessary to make this video. I don't think that Nomura expected people to be this stumped. If all of this is true, then I think it's safe to say that Demix wasn't really as predictable as people thought. If you haven't played Type 0, hopefully this video has convinced you to give it a try. It's one of the best in the series. On one hand, I feel like I could end up unintentionally spoiling one of the major reveals in Kingdom Hearts 4, but on the other hand, I feel like it probably wouldn't be as exciting if you didn't know anything about Type-0. Like, if Ava takes off her mask and looks like Deuce, I have a fear that people might be like, okay, literally, who is that? So in the event that I'm right, now you know, it can't hurt anything. I'm also worried for Nomura. If this reveal flops because nobody gets it, that would be tragic. I would hate to see people acting like it came from out of nowhere when, to me, it seems like this was carefully planned from the start. With that, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I don't know if I'll make more videos, but you're welcome to subscribe in the event that I do. I'd appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up and share it around. Thank you for watching, and may the crystal guide you.